why is your site search costing you revenue and why you might be missing the fact that it is. There's four things essentially that keyword matching can't do. Site search users typically will spend around 2.6 times more than browsers. That's why really keyword matching is broken. It's your highest value customers that are getting that worst experience. So we're replacing keyword searching entirely. As the primary engine. We want to start looking at real-time personalizations. So here we would be bringing in external factors like the ad they came in on, the page that they're on, the products that they've looked at previously, what they've bought previously, what marketing they've received, that sort of thing. So having that information pulled into the chat or into the search that can adjust those products in real time and promote the things that they're most likely to want to buy is going to give a boost. And you can use that in the search bar, you can use it in the chat, you can use it in product recommendation blocks. GenAI, Gemini, OpenAI, other LLMs, they can answer a lot of the high-level questions, provide simple product matches. We need to be building experiences for these sites that take things to a new level in terms of customer experience, loyalty schemes, having on-page information, interactive tools, all those things that create a brand experience that keeps the users wanting to come back to your site and not just the LLMs. 83% of e-commerce sites are still relying on keyword matching for search. So for example, if you were to type headphones with an F instead of a PH, you would get 0 results. If you're a fashion retailer, you search which coat is waterproof, you get nothing. So your customers are actively looking for products you stock and bouncing because your search can't understand what they mean. Meanwhile, Agolia's data shows that users engaging with AI-powered search convert rates that are 2 to 3 times higher than those who don't. And that's not just a marginal improvement, that's fundamentally a different business. So today I'm going to break down the exact 90-day roadmap that we use at Fernie to migrate enterprise D2C brands from a basic keyword search through to AI-powered semantic search without ripping out existing systems or requiring massive budget. And by semantic search, I mean that it understands the intent of the user's question. So before we start, I want to share our newsletter. So I'm just going to drop a link in the chat for if you'd like to join that. That's essentially a weekly newsletter we have, which covers tips and tricks on how to integrate these AI tools and techniques into your workflow to get a better return on your investment for your ads, convert better, and have better customer lifetime value. So I'm just going to drop that into the chat. There we go. So let's talk about the problem, what we need to fix. So the question is, why is your site search costing you revenue and why you might be missing the fact that it is? So there's four things essentially that keyword matching can't do. First of all, it's handle the misspellings. Like I mentioned, the headphones, which leads to 0 results when you actually probably have like 47 headphones in stock if you're an audio retailer. And understanding intent. So for example, if I was to say waterproof running shoes, it's a little bit more than just running shoes. It's delving into what are they made of, understanding they may not have been tagged up as being waterproof, and they may be water resistant or something like that. So it's understanding kind of the intent of the question and being able to marry that up with products in your stock. So and the next thing is really around kind of answering questions. Which camera is best for low light, for example? That would require reasoning to understand the camera capability, the ISO and everything. I'm not a huge camera expert, but to understand what exactly the functions of that camera are that enable it to work in low light. And then, to learn from behavior as well. So a traditional keyword search can't understand what users have done before. It doesn't improve over time with usage. So if there's an error, it's essentially going to repeat the same error, and it's stopping you from progress. So there's a few things you can do to essentially enable a better experience here. So why does it matter so much? Site search users typically will spend around 2.6 times more than browsers, people just kind of browsing around through categories and such. That's a stat from Algolia. Conversion rate for search users essentially is normally around 4.6%, whereas the average is around about 2.7%. According to AdSearch, just 15% of visitors use search, but they generate 45% of revenue on a typical e-commerce site. So when they're going through search, but they're lower down the funnel most likely, and they know what they're looking for. So it's your highest value traffic that's typically getting the worst experience. And this is what we're kind of going to solve today. And on mobile, this problem gets dramatically worse because 63% of traffic on average is on mobile, but mobile users only spend around 2 minutes, 20 seconds on site versus 5 minutes 10 seconds on desktop, roughly. So on mobile, there's like a 79% cart abandon rate. Mobile, essentially, they have half the patience and smaller keyboards. It's harder to type things and you get more typos and that sort of thing. So this is where some of the more modern technologies like voice and image searching can help, being able to just take a picture with a camera. I mentioned the other day, I was looking for a lamp for my dining table, and I was out at a pub near Pinewood Studios, and they had these awesome little gold lamps, gold colored, not actually solid gold, on the tables, and I really wanted them. So I just took a photo and essentially was able to find the product just through using image searching, which is great. So yeah, enabling that functionality and actually tagging up your images so they're easier to find is definitely going to help with that experience. So, and then there's Gen Z. So Gen Z is already gone. So 43% of Gen Z product searches are actually on TikTok rather than Google. And 62% of Gen Z and millennials will prefer that visual search. They expect things like natural language. They want the conversational interfaces. They're used to conversing with tools like ChatGPT and Gemini. And yeah, a keyword-based search to them feels very sort of 2010 to them. Yeah, so that's why really keyword matching is broken. It's your highest value customers that are getting that worst experience. Links to everything I'm going to mention are going to be in the chat. And if you like this and you want more weekly, then yeah, the newsletter is there as well. The challenge right now is the general bar for search is quite low for most e-commerce brands. But we can see that search with like highly successful search like Gemini and ChatGPT is essentially a search. You're providing paragraphs of text that you search a LLM and the LLM provides a response. So it's the same kind of experience from the user's perspective, even though they work a bit differently. But most e-commerce sites haven't factored in this kind of workflow into their experiences on site. So likely you started with an e-commerce platform that came with a built-in search. And it was great for like 2018 or whatever it was you launched because it was advanced. It enables kind of keyword matching, you got facets, you got pagination, you've got all those things that you might want to have in a typical search, which is great. And replacing it means touching your kind of your core product catalog architecture, the thing that's been working for you for all these years. And nobody really wants to own that risk within the team. So you're stuck with a technology that's sort of 6, 8, 10 years behind. But we're getting to a stage now where it's important to start looking at these things. So semantic search, it requires good product data, that's true. It requires some changes to the user interface. Most sites that are using search don't really track search behavior properly around kind of zero search matches and the kind of the categories and things that are being searched and how many searches resulted in more searches and that sort of thing. So there's an important piece around the analytics there around understanding what searches are actually happening, or they've not got the data volume. Essentially, they're smaller e-commerce sites, or they don't require a lot of search, or they don't have a big product repository to explore through search. So there was a product company that we built a chat shopping experience for, and this was Direct Ferries. And essentially what I've got here is a chat interface, and you can see I've already done the chat just in the interest of time. So I said, show me routes from London to Paris tomorrow. It's told me that there's a bunch of routes. I said, I want to do Dover to Calais. And I said, I've got 2 people tomorrow and 1 car. And it's given me a bunch of routes, and it's shown me a set of matching routes here. So this is essentially, this isn't being generated through semantic search. This is kind of an intermediary step because this is agentic conversations interacting with a product API in the back end. So they've got an existing API that we integrated with, and it's being fed through in real time into this chat interface, which is, I mean, this unlocks a whole new level because you can ask these sorts of questions. They've got some examples here. Can I take my dog on the ferry? How much is the cheapest ferry to France? You can start doing these more advanced searches and matches and understanding the routes in a bit more detail. They even integrated a map, which is fantastic. So you can see all the different routes you could take. Yeah, really, really great experience. And obviously, and then when you found what you want, you can just obviously click to checkout and go through the typical checkout experience. So that's kind of a middle ground around kind of not going full AI semantic search, but also having that ability to bring products into the search and be able to search from that way. So nice example there. The other challenges you might have are that your historical data is messy or missing. So you may not have the product search data. And the other thing is around ownership. So yeah, maybe your IT team say we don't have the data, and marketing says this isn't important, it can wait 6 months. Yeah, we'll get onto the reasoning to give to those teams a little bit later, but essentially this does need to be escalated. So I'll give you some good reasoning towards the end around how you can approach those teams to actually escalate this and show them that this is not only viable, but it is important, that it's the next step in your your digital experience journey. So maybe your teams may have concerns about the AI hallucination fears. So the CFO may have read an article around making up AI products that don't exist, or legal is worried about liability. It's actually, we've come a long way since the dawn of all the kind of hallucinations and such. And now well architected systems are typically very stable. Whether or not you're actually on board with Gen AI, the semantic searching, don't confuse it with Gen AI, which can hallucinate. Semantic search essentially matches against your real catalog. So you can lock down what the search is actually using to match against. So we can use embeddings essentially to find similar products. So it's not inventing anything. It's just essentially doing a more advanced kind of match. So we can reduce that fear without the fear without understanding blocks progress towards these solutions. But we can provide essentially that reasoning that says we're not hallucinating products here. We're doing a more advanced search match. And you can even leave the term Gen AI out of it completely and just talk about it as semantic matching, and then that kind of allay some of those fears. So so a lot of teams know this happens and they know it's a problem, but typically budgets may get allocated to paid acquisition and not really the site experience, because it's easier to measure the short-term return on ad spends than it is to invest in a site and then not really understand what was down to the ads or what was down to the improvements in its site experience. So you need to start essentially tracking the measures to understand how well those experiences are performing. So without the analytics, it's really hard to get the buy-in. Search typically may feel like an IT or dev problem, not really a revenue problem. It kind of sits between the marketing and tech, and nobody really owns it. And so the business case is hard to build because we think search is broken, doesn't get budget. But what you can do is you can frame that better and say, look, our search users are converting at 4.63%. So you need to start tracking those search users, and we're failing them. So platforms that essentially understand this, you can go to your CMO, your CFO, and actually say, look, we're converting this much. We've got this many results that are getting 0 result searches. We've got this many searches that are resulting in more searches. And that way you can start to show that essentially there's friction in that journey that isn't taking them direct to checkout where they should be. And it's easier then to explain and get the buy-in from the wider team. Yeah, and some platforms will sell you AI search as a part of a kind of year enterprise plan. And it's really hard to get that buy-in without proof of return on investment. So this is where essentially those analytics are going to come in handy. You need to do that first step, the search audit, to understand what's currently happening, and then that can fuel the resultant project. Okay, so we've talked about kind of the background, and we've talked about the challenges that even great dev teams will face even when they're doing these things. So let's talk about how we actually fix it. So there is essentially a 90-day roughly roadmap that we would employ to get from a traditional search through to a full AI-powered search. So essentially this is the roadmap. So we go from the basic to essentially full AI approach. And I've given some rough estimates on kind of pricing and things there. That show you how to get to these more advanced things, but advanced levels. But this is making some assumptions. So you can do a POC that is smaller essentially to prove value, or you can go down this route, which is kind of the full implementation. I would typically advise starting with a POC, which is going to come in probably around about 25 to 30K just to kind of prove the concept of AI searching, and you can host it on a dedicated landing page and direct traffic to it through a single campaign like email campaign or PPC or something, just to get a small kind of measure and use that to justify the eventual build. But once you've got that justification, we would typically look at this to kind of get that full buy-in. So first of all, you want to do the audit of your current search. So look at your top 100 queries, understand what's happening in those queries. So how many 0 result searches are you getting? If it's greater than 5%, you're probably hemorrhaging revenue. I would measure that initial search conversion rates. How many searches end up turning into a conversion. So yeah, week 2, implement the search analytics. So you want to be tracking kind of the queries, the clicks on the search, how many searches result when clicks on products, clicks on checkout and sale. And then understanding kind of, how like putting that all together in a dashboard or a sheet or something where you can kind of see the overview. And all of this can be kind of captured using kind of GA or some middleware between the search box and the search backend. And then segment it by device, by session type, by user type. So you can look at it by your ICP essentially. So who is actually the audience you're trying to target and what experience are they getting? And then set up a weekly dashboard so you can track kind of progress and changes and such. Then we would look at doing the synonym mapping side. So this is something you can do without too much effort using your existing system. So typically they are keyword matching. So what you can do is actually add the synonyms into the keywords. Now, you may have done this when you first built the site or you first had the products, but now it's actually a bit more advanced in the way you can do this. It's very easy now to set up a Gemini gem or some little AI script essentially to take the keywords that you're adding and then enhance them with synonyms and phrases and little things that essentially the users might search for. If your search already has some level of typo tolerance, then that will also help kind of find a match. It won't be perfect by any means, but you get a better result. It's a bit having that kind of spell check layer to catch for like headphones with an F rather than PH or whatever it is, or they had a typo in their search and then didn't quite get through. You want to have that layer in there because then that just kind of makes it easier and reduces the friction. Next thing you can do is bring in merchandising rules. So when you've got bestsellers, things that are selling well, make sure they're boosted in the results, and then make sure you've got exceptional category filtering. So the facets and things that they can filter down with. So like price, color, size, whatever it might be for your products, making sure they can have that option to filter down and ensuring that experience. This maybe leans into doing a bit of dev, but ensuring that experience is right. So when you're searching, doing a fresh search typically resets the search. Doing filtering down with the facets should update the products. You click through to a product, you can see the product. When you click back in the browser, you should go back into your existing search. So they don't have to redo that search again or go back to page 1 or anything like that. They should be just exactly where they were, so then they can go to the next result on the list. It's some really basic UX improvements that should be a part of that process. Once you got that, that's great. You'll likely see a decent kind of 5 to 15% conversion lift or a 30 to 50% reduction in kind of your zero result queries on average. So can you do it in-house? Yes. It's configuration. It's mostly not development except for the last bit, which is a bit of development. Then it's a lot of easy things you can do very quickly. Now, the next level is this semantic level, and that is going to be a bit more intensive because here you want to start having AI do some matching for you. So we can generate vector embeddings for search so that when the way this works is when a keyword is entered, it can find words that are very close to that keyword. That's essentially what the way embeddings and Gen AI typically works is you convert your words into numerical values in the back end, and it just finds words that are similar to that word. So it can match up kind of trainers and sneakers because they're close in that vector space, which sounds complex, but that's really all you need to know about it. It's that you search for one, the other one is going to show up close in the search, so you can have those results high in the listings. Or you can use a tool like TypeSense as a middle ground. So this is like a tool that kind of introduces that level of handling typos and having the advanced faceting and being able to then have an AI layer on top of it that does the filtering and sorting using AI. So you can interpret the search with AI and then use that to convert it into the parameters that your search actually knows and deals with. Right. And then, I would implement intent classification. So this is where essentially you want to understand what it is the user's question is trying to get at. So is it a search? Is it a question? Is it a comparison? Like understanding what is that? What are they trying to get out of what they're typing at high level? So this is now moving away from kind of just a generic search to an ask anything box, which is a much better experience from the user's perspective on any website. So this is where I see most websites taking their search boxes to now, because users want to have that conversational experience. They want to be able to ask follow-up questions to a search, like I'm looking for a rain jacket. Show me ones that are like fully waterproof. Show me ones that are thermally insulated or something like. Being able to kind of follow up and refine your search results even further until you get to the products that you want to look at. Next thing is to implement fallback logic. So the good thing with semantic search is it's not like keyword search where it's just kind of yes, no. So with fallback logic, you can maybe reduce some of the facets, reduce some of the keywords to get some close matches. And with semantic matching, you're going to have those results anyway, because it's words in that vector space that I talked about. So you'll have searches that are close to the search that the user actually made. And then, I would then do an A/B test of the framework and compare it against your existing search and see, okay, 50-50 split, which one performs best. Track the users, see which the return on investment increase, and then you'll have your your stats then for further investment and then completing the rest of the plan. If this is starting to sound a little bit complex, and I get that it might be because we're now talking about kind of requiring vector database experience and understanding embedding models and integrating it with the existing stack and making huge changes to an existing search system that may be legacy and you may have had for a long time. You may have a lot of products, a lot of facets, and all that sort of thing. If you're thinking we really should do this, but we don't have the time, we have too many products, we don't have the team to build it, then this is where you can reach out to the team at Fernie to apply for one of our AI audits and get the ball rolling on this process. We'll start with a 30-minute call to understand your goals, and then we'll look at your setup and tell you exactly what's possible and to walk you through the process from there. So I'll drop that link in the chat as well, as this is our AI audit request if you're interested in that. So the next thing you want to do is start training on your data. So you want to start looking at if you've got it, your historical query and click data to improve relevance, like what were people searching for. You can actually use that information to better enhance the search experience. You can tailor the prompts that are going through if you're using AI, or you can look at the actual queries and use those to improve the semantic matching. And then add product attributes and descriptions to that training set. So you're able then to search in more detailed attributes, things like matching products under £50 or something. So being able to match on those attributes or these dimensions for a table or whatever it is, like having that ability to search for things by size, by color, by type, by category gives that extra ability to refine that search further and essentially get the sale. So, and then the next part I would integrate is actually customer service FAQs. So here's where you now need a conversational experience of some kind, but you want to be having it so that even at the entry level, the user is able to ask their question in the search. So you can have an ask anything box. It's a good idea to change it to ask anything. And that actually came from, if you've seen ChatGPT, that's what they have on their entry point. Not that we're trying to be ChatGPT, but there's certain UX lessons that we can port across, include. And this level of integrating the FAQs, essentially that gives you or gives them the ability to refine what they're looking for and understand what they're doing. So on the direct ferries example, for instance, so we had, can I take my dog on that ferry, or do I need to pick a different one? So yes, you can take your dog on the ferry from Dover to Calais. However, it's essential to inform the ferry company when you make a booking. Like, it's that answering the question in the chat. Now, if the user had to go and find this information, it would have taken them away from the checkout experience for one, and they'd have to go and find that information themselves. So they have to go look for your FAQ pages. Are they called FAQ pages? Is the information on an FAQ page or an info page or some other area of the site? Have you got it listed under certain categories and manufacturers or ferry providers in this instance? They'd have to go off and find that information themselves, which introduces a whole level of friction to the checkout experience. And it could result in them deciding to go with the different provider for their shopping needs. So the next thing I would look at is adjusting for seasonality and trending terms. So this is where you can start to bring in kind of what's users around Christmas are likely looking for gifts, Christmas items, that sort of thing. We've got weather-related items. So if it's summer, maybe you want to reduce the number of kind of thick jackets that you're selling. Maybe it's more kind of t-shirts and such, the things that get promoted. So adjusting for that seasonality in your search and having that on a rolling basis, you can understand kind of what types of products sell best and what you should boost. And that's really all it is weighting those products to have a greater kind of confidence score in the match. So then from here, I would optimize and expand. Measure the semantic search versus the original keyword performance by query type. So whether it's a question or a product search or such. And then adjust confidence thresholds. So when to use semantic or fall back to kind of keyword searches or other, like less complex searches. So at least there's always some results. We never want the user to get zero results. That's always an experience we try to avoid unless they type gibberish. We want to have as much chance for them to find a match as possible. And then add conversational elements. So essentially what you can have here is, so you have your search bar, you see the search results. Then after the search results are shown, so this is kind of typical e-commerce, you have a ask a follow-up question bar. And that enables them then to refine the results, refine them further, keep refining them until they get to the product that they're actually looking for. And then mobile specific. So this is where essentially you want to allow for things like shorter queries, more typos, have the voice search, have the image search. That is the stuff to integrate at this point and really unlock the mobile audience in terms of getting more sales on your site. Right. So then we move into the full AI, which is phase 3. So this is where we're now looking at kind of the production grade semantic search engine. So we're replacing keyword searching entirely as the primary engine. We want to start looking at real-time personalizations. So here we would be bringing in external factors like the ad they came in on, the page that they're on, the products that they've looked at previously, what they've bought previously, what marketing they've received, that sort of thing. So having that information pulled into the chat or into the search that can adjust those products in real time and promote the things that they're most likely to want to buy is going to give a boost. And you can use that in the search bar, you can use it in the chat, you can use it in product recommendation blocks like customers also bought. So those sorts of areas or popular products. You can include that level of personalization in those blocks. So yeah, we don't want to be weird about it. We just want to promote good matches to these users. And then yeah, enable that multimodal search, so text and image. So find shoes like the ones in this photo. So that kind of level of not just searching for an image match, but saying what in that image is the thing that you're trying to match, and adding a level of natural language filtering as well. So saying like under 50 pounds or waterproof or available in blue or show me green options, like having that ability to refine and alter the search in real time. And we'll be showing an example of this in the next few weeks. If you're wondering, like, can we see an example? We've got another webinar plan where we'll be showing one of these examples of this actual type of search working in real time. So yeah, got that to look forward to. But yeah, so on to conversational interface. So this is really looking at that search to conversation transition. So I found 12 options. Would you like to narrow by price or features? Having those kind of hints being promoted from that conversational interface. And these can be small dynamic areas on the website that the AI can populate, or it can just be in the chat. Either at the side. Problem with the chat at the side is people typically look at it with a little bit of disdain because of old-fashioned chat UIs. So for a long time, chat wasn't that great. It was keyword match, like decision tree, keyword matching, not very flexible, hard to find a match because you had to match every single key. It was the same problem essentially. It was keyword matching for search conversations. To search conversations and questions and answers. But now they're a lot more powerful. So bringing this more front and center and adding the hints throughout the site is just going to unlock this experience all the more. So yeah, enable those follow-up questions and support. So you want the AI to be context aware of what's happening on the page, and then be able to have those hints and maybe even product comparison dialogue. So how do these two products compare? Which route is better? What's my best option here for waterproof when I'm going to Iceland or something? Like having that ability to ask those follow-up questions and compare the products together and have the AI actually look at the specs of each product and then provide an answer. And then yeah, cart integration. So being able to say, I like that one, add that one to my basket, let me check out, I want to buy it. All those sorts of variants, the AI now can just pick up on that. So you just need to have a tool that essentially enables it to be added to basket as a part of your AI flow. We're now fully in the realms of agentic interfaces, agentic conversations, agentic search. So this is now, you're getting a powerful search interface in front of the user. You're likely seeing a whole new level of intent coming from the searches, because before they could only search for keywords. So that was all they gave you. Whereas now they're able to ask full questions, add paragraphs, add images, like show you their challenges. You know what content to create, what products to sell. Like it's a whole level unlocked of really powerful intent data that you can use to market to your customers better. And then, yeah, finally, measurement and iteration. So you want to understand you want to have a revenue attribution model in there. So which searches led to conversions, and then have a continuous learning pipeline. So the system improves with every query. Doesn't say that has to be real time, but essentially you want to be tracking all those queries so you can then use those to refine the search and improve the content and improve the experience over time. So they're not just being lost essentially. And then look at those edge cases again. So which queries are still failing, which queries still end up with 0 results, and make sure as many of those as possible are routed to answers so that the user can see exactly what it is that you offer that matches their requirements. And then look at kind of an expansion roadmap. So this is where we can start looking at more advanced tech recommendations as the system scales. Maybe you want to move to a more advanced vector database. Maybe you want a more advanced search system. This is where some of those more bespoke, custom-tailored customer experiences are really going to come to the fore. It's no longer search is something you just buy out of the box and that's just the way it is. It needs to be tailored to you and your customers and your customer experience, because Gemini, OpenAI, other LLMs, they can answer a lot of the high level questions, provide simple product matches. We need to be building experiences for these sites that take things to a new level in terms of customer experience, loyalty schemes, having on-page information, interactive tools, all those things that create a brand experience that keeps the users wanting to come back to your site and not just the LLMs. We still want to optimize for those LLMs, and you'll get a lot of good intent data from these searches that will enable you then to build better content that will then be surfaced in those LLMs and help those LLMs integrate with your pages and provide links, and even integrate with simple products matches and be able to shop from the LLMs themselves. You can integrate all those sort of things to help drive that discovery of your brand. But yeah, the real power, and it's a power that those LLMs just can't replicate, is going to be on your own site. So it's going to be those experiences that you can tailor for your customers, for your experience, your shipping options, your categories, your bundles, all those things that essentially that general LLMs cannot do. So there's a whole experience there that helps keep customers coming back. Quick wins and bigger investments. Essentially, synonym mapping is the quick win here. So this is where you can just do that basic keyword mapping to synonyms. Use Gen AI to generate your synonyms, insert those into the products. Then you can add a spell check layer to it, so using something like TypeSense, which can essentially handle typo tolerance. You may already have this in your existing search and be able to integrate that. Make sure you've got your search analytics going, so you understand what searches are resulting in checkouts, what searches are resulting in sales and zero results. So you can start mapping those things and understanding the impact of the current search experience. And then add in that semantic layer. So this is where you can start having that matching what the user was intending and what results you gave, and actually answering more of those questions through the search itself. So this was where we get to that real ask anything level, and having that kind of full semantic search. That's kind of a where you start going production grade with that, having the vector databases and having it match in real time and being able to do those follow-up searches, follow-up conversations, and then leading into the conversational interface where it's kind of a full conversation and hints coming through from that conversational interface. So that's kind of quick wins through to the bigger investments. Yeah, obviously the quick wins, you're going to get a small lift, but it's really easy. The longer things are going to take a little bit more time. But even still, we're still talking sort of 3 months or so for each stage. And the conversion lift can be impactful, as we saw with those statistics that I shared earlier. So the real question is, should you build or buy or use some sort of partner decision trees? Essentially here, so if you've got the team in-house and you've got 3 or more AI-savvy engineers, you've got 6 months of timeline for them to dedicate to this stuff, then yeah, I'd say take it in-house. And you'll get a certain level of improvement there. Buying a platform solution. So this is where it will work with standard catalogs, but your output's going to be limited by what those platforms provide. It is more difficult to get a feature added into their product roadmap. So we're thinking customer experience here. What works for your customers, integrating with things that aren't just search, like on-page recommendations, the real-time conversations, the being able to update pages in real time and do follow-up marketing and all those sorts of things that you just don't typically get in a typical search interface. That's the new level now that we're getting to in terms of customization and customer experience. So really, I'd say go with the partner like Fernie for a tailored customer experience if that's the level you want to go to. This is brands that have the budget to invest in that customer experience, that want to increase the ROI, that have their unique catalogs, that have complex requirements, many products, the need for ongoing iteration. They're seeing a drop in the kind of the drop off in terms of the AI stealing a lot of the traffic, and maybe some of their sales are going to other brands as well. That's where you want to start thinking about these things. Like doing that audit gets you that data that can then show that actually, yeah, this is worth doing. It's to an extent, it's clear that users are preferring these experiences. Gemini, ChatGPT, they've boomed, and it shows that customers want great informational customer experiences that give them the products they want, give them information, give them solutions to their challenges in real time. And then now it's just a case of transitioning that on site and having an experience like that on site. So when the user comes to your site, they're not then leaving to go back to Gemini or ChatGPT in future. They're remembering your brand and that they can solve their challenge by coming to your site, and they can solve it better than they could with those LLMs. So how much for an AI search or POC? So typically this will vary depending on your provider, but we aim to provide a simple AI search MVP that proves the value for around about $25K. This enables you then to prove the theory before then asking for a greater investment. Typically, we will do this as an MVP so we can iterate on it and actually expand it over time with more features, functionality, greater product set, the FAQs, all that sort of thing. If you're a £5 million brand and you're wondering, is this kind of semantic search overkill? The first phase, the phase one, that will work for anyone. That'll just obviously, it's a conversion lift on the off because you're just matching more of your customers' existing searches with a very little effort. Phase two, it really makes sense if you have that catalog of products and you're seeing the drop off from the audit. So once you get the results from the audit, then you can kind of look at phase two and obviously then move on to phase three as well. So I start with the audit, understand if those queries, if 5% of your queries are returning 0 results, if that is happening, you have a problem worth fixing regardless of size. And then you can look at some of the other more advanced things such as the semantic matching and what can be introduced in order to better match those customer queries. The real question here is how many searches and what's the loss of or the missed opportunity cost by not having these things in place. And you can actually work that out by doing the audit. So yeah, and what if your current search platform doesn't support it? So with most search platforms, so say you have a typical Magento search or you're using even something like an old-fashioned search indexer, it's absolutely fine for those things to stay because what you can actually do is add a semantic layer on top. So you can have the search go through the AI and the AI turn it into the facets and the queries that your existing search understands. So you can add a middleware there, which does the interpretation and adds a level of semantic matching. So that then can enable you to kind of work with Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce that may not have this functionality out of the box, but you can add a level there that will do it for you. And then, phase three, that's probably more the kind of platform migration for search, but by then you'll have proven the return on investment to justify it. So how do we measure success beyond just conversion rate? There's sort of 5 or 6 metrics to check. So first of all is your search usage rates. What percent of sessions had a search? There is the 0 result rates. Of all the searches that were done, how many resulted in 0 results? And that should be less than 5%. Anything more than that, then you're not really answering your customer queries. You've got a great audience coming to your site, but you're not giving them products. And that is something to look at. Searches per session. So a good search, if you've got a good search in place, users are going to search more. They had a good experience from their first search, they do more searches. But you also want to check out the search to cart rate. So seeing how many searches actually resulted in something being added to cart. So it's all right if they do lots of searches, if they're also doing lots of add to cart as well. But lots of searches without lots of add to cart is a bad sign. So revenue per search. So seeing like for each user who did a search, for each one of those searches, what was the revenue? And then looking at the users who went through traditional category exploration, what was the revenue coming from them as well? So you can understand what's the split and the importance of search for your particular site. So, and then adding the semantic search will essentially improve most of those. So you'll have a level there that is essentially it's a multiplier to push most of those things forward. So once you've got that in place, you should see a jump in how well each one of those statistics is performing, and you can prove the value. As for hallucinations, I did kind of cover it already. So this is where generative AI, when it previously, and if it's not implemented well, it would recommend products that didn't exist. Now, what we do is rather than having it just essentially tell you what products there are, we're actually getting the AI to do the matching. So it's your existing catalog that it's matching against, and we're just using AI to do the match. It's not inventing a product to give back to the user. It's a different way of looking at how we do the search. So it's a level of functionality added between the question that was asked and your existing catalog. So we're using that existing catalog as the only things that come back in that search. So so the worst thing you can really get is a poor match. And you can fall back to your keyword searches or use a wider semantic match in that case as well. So to recap, so what we've covered, obviously 83% of e-commerce sites still use keyword matching, and it is costing them, and search users convert nearly double the rate of browsers. They're spending 2.6 times more on average. And if your search doesn't handle typos or natural language, you're going to be losing your best customers. Users engaging with AI-powered search are converting at rates 2 to 3 times higher. That's not a nice to have. That's a It's a business critical capability that you need to have. So this is the 90-day roadmap that we've employed. And we can enhance your current search in sort of 4 weeks, or you could do that piece in house. We can layer on semantic capabilities in the next 4 weeks and go full semantic in about 12 weeks. So yeah, you've got levels there of enhancement. And yeah, obviously it will vary depending on each and every brand, but that's a rough guide that should kind of give you an estimation of kind of the investment that's needed to make an impact. So it's not about being cutting edge. This technology has been around and is proven now for a while. It's about actively not losing revenue because your highest value customers can't find products that you definitely stock. So we can use these Gen AI tools and semantic matching and conversational interfaces just to give a better experience for those customers. So 2 ways to take this forward. So obviously we've got our AI audit requests. So if you're looking at this saying, we'd love to do this, it's looking a bit complex though, and you want a bit of assistance, or you just want us to do the initial audits, then you can take it in-house. Happy to do that also. I'll give the AI audit request is below. And if you're not quite there yet, you want to do some more exploring, we do have a newsletter that sends out tips like this every week, which you can sign up to also, and the link is down below as well. So both links are there. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.